You're the yellows and I'm the reds. This ain't snooker, it's more like chess. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting fours for fun. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting fours for fun.
Hi, you're listening to the 8 Ball Podcast with me, Dan Wells.
And me, Scott Ryan.
Who's on the show today?
We've got a huge guest, probably the biggest star we've had on the show so far. We've got multiple world champion, Moscone Cup legend, Darren Appleton on the show. Welcome, Darren.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Be here.
Well, it's a bit of a bizarre scenario because it's a Friday. It's got a bit of a Friday feel to it. It kind of feels like we could be having this conversation in a pub. Really, I think it would be much better. Yeah. A storied career, a multiple world champion. But we've all got to start somewhere, Darren. Where did it start for you?
Probably around the age of 8. My brother Shane, who was a professional pool player as well, he got a table for his birthday. And at the time, my cousin, Andy Appleton, who you've probably heard of, he was maybe like number 4 in the world at that time at English 8 ball. He was sort of in his prime. At that time, he would have been in his late 20s. So I sort of followed it a little bit because of him. So I used to go to exhibitions and watch him when he was quite local. So from the age of, let's say, 8 to 12 years old, I played a little bit at home, and then when I went on holiday with my family, we'd play in the local holiday competition they had there, where if you win the tournament, you get like a free holiday. So it was pretty good because me and my brother used to win it every year. Cleethorpes and places like that, like a Yarmouth caravan site, let's say. Yeah, so, but at the age of 12, I really got into football and boxing. So I sort of stopped playing pool, and then I just really focused on football and boxing until around the age of 15, 16. Because around the age of 12, my brother sold his table, so I just didn't really bother with it. And I was mad on football, really. That was probably like my biggest passion. And I was really good at school. But as you know, it's very hard to make it, that sport. And boxing, I come from a boxing family with my brothers and cousins were all pro. And my father was a coach. So I just thought I'll give the boxing a go. But then one day after I finished training boxing, me and my brother Shane, we went to the pub across the road. We were just having a game of pool. And the local landlord there see us playing, and he could see that we could play. He asked us to play in his team in the league in Nottingham, which is in West Yorkshire. So me and my brother said, yeah, let's give it a go. And then as soon as I played that first league match, I was just hooked then. And then just started playing league every week. And then my brother decided to get another table at home. So then we was practicing like crazy. And I just kept getting better and better very quickly. I thought, oh, this is a lot easier than boxing and football. So got to like the age of 17. I just started playing like a lot more leagues. And then I started playing county. And then I was doing well like locally playing tournaments like pro-ams and stuff like that against other good players like Andy Appleton, for example. So at 17 years old, I decided to quit boxing, and then everything just escalated from there. Really, me and my brother, we started going to the pool rooms, started playing like a lot more tournaments, like around West Yorkshire, playing all the county, and then it just exploded from there. Really, and I sort of knew straight away that this is what I want to do for a career, really, and just kicked on from there.
You was quite a late developer, because it's a recurring theme with our guests that they was in the pub or wherever it was at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old. So you were really late into the game.
Yeah, I sort of like, if it wasn't for boxing and football, I think I would have probably kept at it from like maybe the age of 8 to 10 years old, and maybe even got into snooker, because I was sort of mixing between the two at that time. But obviously it was just a fun. It was just like a pastime and a bit of fun. But when I got to like the age of 17, 18, I was pretty good at snooker as well. And I'm thinking, but I just didn't love it. You know what I mean? It's one of those games where you had to really put the hours in, like 6, 7 hours a day. And I just didn't love it enough. There was something about pool where it was quick, just a little bit more like, obviously it looks easier on the eye as well. But also, but the big thing with pool is that it was easier to make money at an amateur level compared to snooker. So I think that was the deciding factor. And I just loved it, you know what I mean? People ask me all the time, like, why didn't you give snooker a go? And it's just because, really, I just wasn't dedicated to play snooker. I just didn't love it enough to put the hours in where pool, I could play all day and night. So I don't regret not giving snooker a go, because I've had a successful pool career. But I do wonder, like, whether I could have made it at snooker. But yeah, I probably would have started a lot younger if it wasn't for the boxing and the football.
So was it? Sorry, I'm going to just digress away from the pool here. From a boxing perspective, Yorkshire's always been a bit of a hotbed for boxing. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, it was all about Naz. You had a real hotbed up there at boxing. But
around that time, you had Naz and people like that. You had a guy called Henry Wharton, who was British champ.
Yes, Henry Wharton. Yeah, he was a gypsy fella.
Yeah, and he was actually the president of our boxing club, 5 Towns Boxing Club it was called.
Oh, wow.
So we sort of covered Pontefract, Castleford, Featherstone, Knottingley, and Normington, which is it's like more or less like they all sort of come under like Pontefract, but it's like well spread out just on the outskirts. So when Henry Wharton was originally from York, and he was living in Leeds, so he was the president of our boxing club. So when we had like his own shows, he would come like and give us some advice. He'd do the presentation, and then at the end of the season, he'd do the presentation also. And he was a really nice guy. My cousin was right at the time. My cousin was a middleweight, and he was a professional. He was like about number 7 in the country at the time. So he was like getting there to get a shot at the British title, but then he injured his back and just never recovered. But like you said, like there was a lot of good boxers from that time from Yorkshire,
and also snooker players,
like Errol Graham and people like that.
Bomber Graham, unbelievable. Well, you had the Brendan Ingle gym. The Brendan Ingle gym was in Sheffield,
Johnny Nelson, people like that.
Yeah, massive hotbed. And the same for snooker. It was a hotbed of snooker as well.
Yeah, especially in Leeds.
Especially in Leeds, obviously Paul Hunter, Joe Johnson from Bradford.
Yeah, there's loads of them.
Hotbed, and I think that's kind of carried on.
Even English 8-ball's been like an hotbed always from Yorkshire. Yeah, so it's like I think we're like the pub sports, and like the like rougher sports like boxing
and rugby. Yeah. So what football team do you follow, Darren?
Manchester United, which is probably a bit strange to you guys.
Yeah, that is a bit strange.
Yeah,
my pal Craig is from Leeds, he'd be fuming.
I stopped recording now.
Yeah, it was just an accident, really. I think my memory was 1983 when they played in the FA Cup final. I was like 7 years old at the time, and I just picked the colour, really, of the team. Like, red is my favourite colour, so they just happened to play in the FA Cup final, and I just liked some of the players on the team, like Norman Whiteside, Brian Robson, and then I just stuck with them, and obviously I just liked the sound of the name of the team, you know what I mean? Like Manchester United, I thought, oh, that's cool. So
do you get some stick for that, though? You must get some stick.
Yeah, Pontefract, I'm about 15 miles away from Leeds, so where I live, it's like a mixture between Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester United, and then there's other guys who like support Everton and teams like that. So it's not really like a massive Leeds town regards supporters. I like Leeds and Barnsley. Like Barnsley's pretty close to me, so I do follow like their results. I'm not one of them fans where like I'm like really against Leeds coming up to the Premier League. I want them to get in the Premier League because that's where they should be. You know what I mean?
And it was a massive derby years ago. It used to be the best game to watch. The best game to watch on TV, the Strachan era.
Without a doubt. And, like 20 years ago, Leeds were like a real top team. So
they were. It's a shame, really.
Tragedy, really, what's happened to them. And I'm hoping they get to finish the league so that they can get promoted to the Premier League.
I think the Premier League's crying out for that rivalry again. From a Manchester United perspective, I think it's crying out for it.
I think they're in a good position. Like if they do get in the Premier League, they'll be okay. They'll be like a mid-table team, I think. And then obviously, if they get some money into the club, they can do some damage. Yeah,
definitely. So obviously, we've digressed there because it's kind of got a bit of a pub feeling. Yeah. So we've just digressed as we went down the pub.
I wasn't a glory hunter because, like at the time, they wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Obviously, Liverpool was by far the best team then. So, but obviously, some of my friends in the 90s like switched over to Manchester United. agreed with that. You know what I mean?
That's the worst thing. That Glory supporters can't stand it. You used to see that at school. So when Blackburn won the Premier League, like literally like 2 months later, your mate who supported Portsmouth his whole life's walking around in a Blackburn shirt. You're like, what are you talking about? Why are you doing this?
One of my friends did that. Is like crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. So, Darren, you've kind of realised you can make a go of the game. What was the big breakthrough for you?
The big breakthrough? We English 8-ball, I'd probably say when I was 18 years old, when I won the Bapto Championships. At the time, there was about 10,000 entries, and it was very difficult to qualify. There was qualifiers all around the country, and then the final 64 would go to Great Yarmouth. And they used to have this every year. It was like a long-standing tournament. It was called like the Bapto Championship. So that they would have the teams and they would have the pro event there with all the pros, let's say, and they have the amateur event, which they had qualifiers throughout the whole year, playing Bapto rules, which is like similar to black ball rules now.
We play Bapto rules in Portsmouth still.
We do. We still play them.
They were my favourite rules, even though I played on the world rules side. I always preferred the Bapto rules. So
you can come and sign on for my Wednesday pub team if you fancy it, Darren.
Yeah.
We'll pay for the taxi.
Yeah, we'll get the taxi.
Oh, fine. So then I was like maybe just coming towards my 18th birthday, and then the guy in the pool club in Ossett, which is in Wakefield, he says like, why don't you play in these qualifiers? Obviously, it's a massive tournament. At that time, probably like the biggest amateur event to win. Without a doubt. It had been going a long time. So all the best amateurs are playing it. And I just happened to qualify, went down there, and there was a lot of good players in it, like guys who went on to turn pro. And I won the National Amateur Championships in Yarmouth. And then when I won that, I sort of knew then that I'm ready to turn pro. I entered a few flyers that weekend as well at Great Yarmouth. It was my first time there, and I was beating a lot of the pros and winning some of the flyers, like Ross McInnes, all them guys. So I sort of knew then that I'm probably ready to turn pro now.
It was quite big in the 80s, wasn't it? I think people forget that. There was
this
big Loldrum in the 90s.
This would have been 1993. So I started properly, let's say, around 92, 93. And then in 94, I joined the UK tour, which would be, you guys would know as the IPA tour. And then after 1 year, I finished like number 22 in the rankings, so which were incredible, really, because it was a 2-year ranking list, you know what I mean? So I caught up very quickly. And I think I was provisionally number 8 on the 1-year list. So I thought, so I turned pro. Because in them days, you had to finish in the top 64 on the tour to be able to turn pro. So I turned pro like after 1 year of playing on the tour. So I just it just like went along very quickly. Everything just happened very quickly.
So was you making a living out of playing pool at this time? Was it a job?
That's what I'm saying. I was winning a lot of local tournaments. I was doing well in pro-ams. So even at 16 years old, I was probably making £100, £200 a week playing English 8-ball. And obviously when you're like, it's like pocket money, really. Obviously, I live with my parents. I didn't have any bills. So like at snooker, you can't really make money unless you're a professional. And at that time, there was only like 8 to 10 pro events a year at snooker. They'd have qualifiers in Blackpool where they'd play a lot of the tournaments off in like a couple of weeks. So if you didn't qualify for some of the major tournaments, you wouldn't play for 3 or 4 months. So it was very hard with snooker. So I thought, pool, at least it's consistent. You know what I mean? There's something every week or every 2 weeks. So, and then I started playing money matches. I was playing money matches at 17 years old. Andy Appleton was taking me all over the country playing these money matches. And he like put the money up from me. Obviously, looking back now, he knew what he was doing. He was a good guy. But he'd give me like a cut of the money. So I was making like a good £200 a week between the age of 16 to 18 years old. And then when I turned pro, I'm thinking, there's like 2 or 3 grand to win in this tournament. You know what I mean? So obviously the money's not like it should be. But yeah, I made a decent living. And then when I got to 18 years old, I was probably making like £400 or £500 a week, probably like £300 or £400 a week. So at that time, it was pretty good money. It was a good wage.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take into account inflation, you're probably 30 grand a year playing pool in this.
Yeah,
today.
I mean, From turning pro, when I turned pro in 1996, so that's 28 years ago now. 1996. But the first pro event I ever played in, I won it.
Wow!
I don't know if I'm the only player to ever do that, but I beat Rob Hill in the final. I remember the final because it was a great final. I beat him 9-8, and I just knew then. I thought this is the feeling of winning like a pro event, and then that sort of opened the floodgates. And when I beat Rob Hill in that final to win the pro event, I just sort of knew then that I could be like the best player or one of the best players. And within a year of turning pro, I was ranked number 1. So it was amazing, really.
So I've got to ask the question: what was the difference in the World Championships? Because it took you a few years to get to your first 8-ball final.
Yeah. The first World Championship I played in was in 96. I won a qualifier in Yarmouth. So back then, it was very hard to get in the singles.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't play for your national team, you had to qualify at Yarmouth, and it was brutal. There was like maybe 600 players playing for 4 spots.
Wow.
And I think I might be the only player ever to qualify two years in a row. 96 and 97, I qualified in Yarmouth. And then the first year, in 96, I lost to Lee Kendall in the last 32, but at that time he was probably one of the best players for sure. Then 97 was a disappointment. I got beat in the last 16 against Nigel Davis from Wales. At that time he was a really good player, but I was leading 7-2 and I lost 8-7. And if I won that match, I would have gotten on television in the quarterfinal. So, and then 99 was a big disappointment. I lost to Quinton and 9-8 in the quarterfinal, and I had him beat. I mean, at 8-8, I had 7 balls onto his 1 ball. Yeah. And I've done game when I didn't need to go game, and I've ended up missing my last ball. And then he's ended up kicking the ball in or something stupid. And then he's ended up going on to win the tournament. He beat Yannick Bofis in the semis and Terry Hunt in the final. And no disrespect to get Yannick and Terry, but I'd never lost to them.
Yeah. So, that was a bizarre one, though. Quinton Han.
Yeah.
Entering the 8-balls. What was he like? We've heard a couple of stories about him. So, we said earlier we'd talk about. Apparently, he was like a bit of a boy. I guess that's kind of the politest way to put it. What was he like?
Yeah, he was a character. He was all right. Like when you got to know him, he was a sound guy, but he did love himself. He was a very confident lad. He did some crazy things. I remember that year in '99, there was driving the bus over from. They were all going to the airport in Australia with their team, and I think they was all drinking, and I think he kicked the bus driver out to the bus when they've stopped off, and he started driving the bus, and apparently he crashed the bus on the way to the airport. So that's the type of stuff he did. You know what I mean? But this particular year when he beat me, I think he broke his cue. I don't know if he did it in the first round or whether something happened when he arrived. He ended up just picking like a rat cue out, put a really good tip on it. It wasn't like one of them screw
ones, yeah.
It was just like an old Riley's cue or something, like a £20 cue, and he just put a tip on it, and he just played unbelievable. But he did play English 8-ball back in Australia. It's quite a popular game. Obviously, he was more into snooker, but you could see that he played some English 8-ball because his cue ball control was incredible. He's probably got the best cue ball control I've ever seen.
Wow!
After Mick Hill, when he hit the ball, finessed the ball, and at that time the white ball was a lot lighter than the object balls compared to what you see now. But he was very good at playing them little stun run through shots. He played them with ease. It was unbelievable.
So that was your first finals in 97, 96?
No, so 96 was my first time I played in it, and then in 99 I lost in the quarters to Quinton. That was probably my biggest disappointment, believe it or not. Really? Even though I got beaten in the quarters, I felt as if I won that match, I would have won it. And then obviously if I won it in 99, maybe I might have gone on and won it a few times.
But then you made the final in 2004.
That's it, yeah, 2004.
2004, but it was a weird one because no disrespect to the fields now, but the World Championships is sort of like there's a couple of World Championships now, where back then the fields were unbelievable. I mean, the level was incredible. Like, if you got to last 16, it was an achievement.
Yeah,
it was because everybody played in it. So, like in the year 2000, I lost to Chris Mellin in the final 32, and then in 2001, I lost to Mellin 9-8 in the quarter final.
How do they do the seedings though? Because obviously, You're one of the top players. Chris is one of the top players. Why would you play each other that close together?
Crazy, because they didn't use the seedings what you'd use from like the pro events, like the IPA. Yeah. So they based it on the top 8 on the WEPF website. So they went over your results for the World Championships only over a 3-year period. So only eight players got seeded. So obviously in 2000, me or Chris wasn't seeded. And then obviously in 2002, I lost to Pat Holtz in the quarterfinal 9-8. Again, I was sick. 2003, I lost to Gareth Potts in the final 32. So I was getting crazy draws, you know what I mean?
Wow. Well, that's a final in itself. You and Gareth is a final, isn't it?
And then in 2004, I was finally seeded into the final 32. In the final 32, I beat Mark Selby 8-0. In the last 16, I beat Ronan McCarthy 8-2. In the quarterfinal, I beat Quinton Han 9-6. That match was incredible. And then in the semi-final, I beat can't remember who I beat in the semi-final. And then I played Mick Hill in the final. But that year was the best I ever played. It was just very unlucky that I lost that match against Mick Hill. I don't know if you've seen the match, but I played unbelievable to be up 7-2. Mick I made one mistake to go 8-2 up at the interval. I always remember that one mistake. It wasn't an easy shot, but I probably should have made it the way I was playing. Then after the break, I was sort of like, I think the break hurt me, the interval. It was like a 15-20 minute. It was like a 15-20 minute break at that particular time. And it was like maybe 700 or 800 people in the crowd. It was like the World Championships was really big then. It was very prestigious. I mean, the Embassy held it, so it was like really good.
I used to watch it on Sky Sports. It was unbelievable. Yeah, that's how I knew who you were.
That would have been live. It would have been amazing. If that would have been live, it would have been twice as good. You know what I mean? But it was an amazing tournament. And then, so after the interval, I was up at 8-4. I remember missing a ball in the middle pocket at 8-5. And that was my real bad mistake in the match. Sort of like, that's the only time I twitched in the whole match at 8-5. But then I got back up to 9-6. And I thought, right, it's first to 11. I'm up 9-6. Yeah. I would have taken it before the match against Mick Hill. Because at that time, me and him, I think we were ranked number 1 and 2 at that time on the IPA and everything. So I was happy at 9-6. But after that, I just never got another shot. Mick broke and run all his 3 games. I broke dry twice.
Tough.
But he's taken an absolute crazy finish out at 9-6. I mean, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime finish. And he's taken a crazy finish out at 9-8. And then he's put an unbelievable black down the rail from the white ball being near the top rail to maybe go 10-9. It was like crazy, really. And then at 10-9, I broke off. And the white ball's jumped in the air. And it's just flicked my tip. And the referee hasn't seen it, and Mick Hill hasn't seen it. But obviously, I could never play that way. We're not owning up to the foul, so I said, "Oh, I fouled." And obviously, and the finish he had wasn't easy. He sort of had to waste a shot. So, obviously, I'm not saying it cost me the title, but Mick played unbelievable to come back and win 11-9.
So you only had to wait another 2 years before you were in another final.
Well, this is where things start going downhill because 2005, I applied to play on the IPT in America. So in 2005, I did start practicing American pool. But I did get to the quarterfinal again. I lost to Phil Harrison 9-8, and again, like I didn't really do much wrong there. It's just like crazy, really. And then in 2006, I was really not playing English 8-ball at all. So to get to the final in 2006 was a miracle because I didn't play well that year to get to the final. I just seemed to like grind out results.
That's the only thing I'll say is watching that 2006 final back. You didn't play your best, and I'm not, being disrespectful when I say that. I'm sure you'll admit that yourself. But there was quite a funny moment where you've kicked the table.
I sort of knew, Scott, that at that time that was my last chance to win it. I sort of knew after that tournament I was pretty much done with English 8-ball. And I'd never lost to Mark Selby before that. I'd played him a few times in tournaments. I played him for money about 3 or 4 times and beat him. But I played unbelievable against him. Every time I played him, I played unbelievable because he was an incredible player as well. Yeah. But he just brought the best out of me. But in that final, I think the 8-foot table suited him. I did, obviously, like you say, I got off to a bad start. I think I was down 6-3. Yeah. And then when I got back to 6, I think I got back to 6-6.
6-5.
Oh, 6'5",
and then he had a fluke.
Yeah, he's got that fluke, and that just turned everything. But it wasn't just a fluke. But the next frame, I broke. The ball's really good, but the white ball got kicked into the pocket.
Yeah,
and then that's when I kicked the table, because I sort of knew that when stuff like that happens, you just know it's not your day. So
it actually made me like you more as a player back then.
Yeah, just
because well, no, but we've all been there. Dan, I don't know. Dan, you've got more experience of missing balls than
I have,
me.
yeah. Thanks.
It does get really frustrating. I've punched the table many times and just kind of got frustrated.
Obviously, it was a tournament what wasn't really lucky for me. You know what I mean? I mean, there's only really twice where I think I can blame myself. I've like, there was once where I sort of dogged it, like against Quinton. And then one maybe against Pat Holtz in 2002 where I sort of maybe twitched, but it wasn't a bad twitch. You know what I mean? It's not like I've like fell over I'm like falling over and fell apart. I never felt that. Like, it's just that players play good against me. They got that little bit of luck at the right time, like Mick Hill and what have you, and Selby. Like even Mellin in 2001, like Mellin was lucky against me at 8-8. I mean, Mellin like missed 2 easy chances to beat me at 8-6 and 8-7, and then at 8-8 he breaks off. And I have been funny. I don't know if you've seen the match back, but he had like the easiest finish you'll ever see in your life, and he was trying his best to miss. So it's like them little small margins, you know what I mean? And he ends up winning the tournament. I mean, obviously he's a great player, so them little small margins at that level are massive. You need that little bit of break, and it just never happens.
Yeah. It sounds like there's something you regret in your career. Obviously, you've won virtually everything there is. Just winning that 8-ball title.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I was still playing the game now. If I never went to American Pool and I didn't win the English 8-ball championship, I'll probably hang myself, because I sort of retired in 2006. So that's like, I was 30 years old when I retired.
Yeah.
So if I kept playing for the next 10 years, I've no doubt that I would have won it maybe at least once, you know what I mean?
Is there part of you that wants to go back and win it?
Well, I sort of went back a couple of years ago, but it just didn't feel the same anymore. Like the tournament setup, it just wasn't the same buzz. It wasn't the same people. It wasn't the same setup with the arena. And just the organisation side wasn't great. So obviously I've been very lucky because since I switched over to American Pool, I've played in tournaments like a lot bigger scale regards exposure, the setup, and just the professionalism of it, really. And obviously playing in the Moscone and the World Championships, all that stuff. Obviously, they feel like proper tournaments, you know what I mean? Where no disrespect to the one in Blackpool or even Bradford, really. I mean, it's like they could put a bit more work into the to the arenas and like the scheduling and all that stuff. So when I went back a couple of years ago in Blackpool, I just didn't have the hunger really to. It just wasn't, the fire wasn't there where it was there. Let's say 15 years ago.
Yeah, you went back to the Supreme Pool Series though. You had a good run.
Well, that was different because I moved back to England about 3 years ago. Yeah, back, and at that time I wasn't playing any pool really. I was taking a bit of a break. I had a lot of personal issues. So, and then Kendall was like nagging me to play in his series. And I said to him, Lee, I haven't played for 10 years. I haven't picked my cue up for 10 years. I think I did an exhibition somewhere with Mick Hill like 4 or 5 years ago. That's the last time I played. So I said to him, it's not really for me. Like, and then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, the prize money looked really good here. It's on my doorstep, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not really playing any American pool right now, so I thought, let's give it a go. Yeah, I sort of enjoyed that really, especially the grand final one. I really put the hours in for that one, and I was very, very close to winning it. So
yeah, you got beat by Liam Dunster.
Yeah, I sort of had my chance there. I played well, but I missed a couple of crucial blacks. So. But I beat a lot of great players to get there, and obviously the prize money was crazy, so there was always going to be like 1 or 2 deals going on. So
yeah, definitely.
The Calcutta was big as well, so I did well out of that. So it was good. I wasn't bitterly disappointed to lose to him. So I was obviously losing the World Championships more disappointing, even though this Supreme Series, that grand final, that's probably like the best field I've ever played in.
Yeah, 51 grand to the winner as well. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was good money. I mean,
what did you get as a runner-up for that?
It was 3,000.
That's sick. Absolutely
I'm
sick.
sure they went halvesies.
Absolutely sick. Did you agree to split the pot beforehand?
Well, from the semis, we sort of did something from the semis.
Oh,
Fantastic.
okay,
Do you know, I'm glad to hear that, because that's
with
it.
the Calcutta as well. I think we all did pretty good out of it, especially me and Liam, because I had 50% myself in the Calcutta. You see, so I only went for £2,000, where obviously people like Mick Hill and Phil Harrison were going for like 5,000, 6,000, and I put a lot of hours in. You know what I mean? Where all the other tournaments, I didn't really put enough hours in, let's say. But it's like the 2006 World Championship. I sort of played my way to the final, really, and then obviously the final, it just didn't quite happen in the final. Disappointing, but it wasn't as disappointing as losing to Quinton Ann in '99. I think that's the one what really stands out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And the other kind of thing that came with that was, obviously, it's a snooker player who, on the surface, it appears, has just turned up, and they played it like this on Sky.
Yeah,
turns up here on his week off and beating all the best pool without telling a side story, which is he plays
Quinton
it all the time.
Yeah, I think Quinton and Mark Selby is an exception because they've got a pool background, and you could see that. Where there's other snooker players what's tried to come over and played, and they just wasn't at the same level as Mark and Quinton, like Tony Drago, all them guys. Even someone like Mark,
Stephen Lee.
Yeah, all them guys tried it, like Graham Dott. They was able to pop the balls, but their patterns were no good. Their tactically wasn't very good. So with Quinton and Mark Selby, they had a good all-round game. You know what I mean? They knew what they was doing.
So talk us through the American pool journey. I mean, give us the full overview of what happened there.
When you first go over to American pool, like everyone else, really, you just think, oh, massive pockets, it's going to be easy. And potting the balls and everything else to a certain level, it is. But then when you start playing the real top players, you start thinking, oh, this game is actually a lot tougher than what I thought. Like the break, the kicking, the strategy, the percentage play, everything really, pattern play, making the right decisions, everything. It was a lot tougher than what I thought. So I could play great to a certain level. So I was beating those guys, like, let's say, these semi-professional guys on a consistent level for money and stuff like that. But then when you start hitting the big players, then you start to get found out. So then around 2006, obviously, we played on the IPT, which we were lucky because it was 8-ball. So me and Mick Hill especially did pretty well on the IPT. We made like $60,000 each from 2 tournaments. And I think if that would have continued, and we got a little bit more used to the equipment, like the cues and the size of the balls, I think the likes of me and Mick Hill and Chris Melling, people like that, I think will have done some real damage on the IPT. Because it was massive money as well. The prize money was incredible. For the 3 tournaments, he paid out like about $12 million.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And
So can you give...
Efren Reyes won the World Open, and he got $500,000 for that. Torsten Norman won one of the tournaments, the North American Open or something. He got $350,000. So the prize money was incredible. If it would just continue for like 3 or 4 years, might have been sitting on the beach now.
Did you ever play Efren? Did you ever play Efren?
Oh yeah, I played him many times. So when this IPT folded in 2000, at the end of 2016, it just folded, like they just couldn't fund it anymore. And at that time, they just banned the online gaming in America, so that killed it. So that was just very unfortunate, really. So in 2017, I had a decision to make to go back to English 8-ball or continue playing American pool, and I just couldn't go back to English 8-ball. I thought I need a new challenge. And it's something I thought about for like a good 2 or 3 years beforehand. Before I even joined the IPT, I was watching the Moscone Cup, the World 9-ball Championships, all that stuff, and I'm thinking, I quite fancy that.
Well, it's weird though. So we kind of, like, I come from a snooker background. I used to play 8-ball pool occasionally, but then just before Christmas one year, I'm sat at home watching Sky with my dad and my brother, and then there's this pool tournament. And it's got Jimmy White in it, it's got Alex Higgins in it, and it's got Jimmy White in it. And it's the Moscone Cup.
Yeah.
And then, about a year later, my local club got a 9-ball table in it. Now, on TV, it does look an easy game, right? I was playing 9-ball with a snooker cue for years. I won 2 9-ball. That's my proudest moment. I won 2 9-ball tournaments with a snooker cue. So, explain to people who are listening why you can't play 9-ball with a snooker cue, because you can't really, can you?
It's very rare that someone can play to an high level with a snooker cue. I think Mark Gray's only the exception.
Yeah.
Really. He's probably like the best player I've seen with the snooker cue. Even Chris Mellin in the early days, when he sort of like played a little bit of 9-ball, he played with his pool cue actually. And I tried it a little bit, like when I played in the qualifiers in 2001 to qualify for Cardiff. I used a snooker cue, but it only can get you so far. Like potting the balls are okay, but when you got to play with a spin or play like a power shot, it's just such a big disadvantage. But on like really brand new equipment where the table's really slick, like television table, you can get away with it a little bit more with a snooker cue. But when you play on like cloths, what's really worn in, or dirty balls, or like tougher tables, and then using a snooker cue is going to really catch you out. Because like we like the bigger equipment, the bigger tips like the 13 mil or 12.5. It just allows you to hit the ball a lot easier, a lot softer, and you can spin the ball a lot easier. It's going to have a lot less deflection, which is huge at that game because you've got to spin the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So it's pretty impressive that Mark Gray's had the success he has really with a snooker cue, but he's an exception.
So what cue do you use to play American pool?
I use a Predator cue, which is a 12.75 millimeter tip and just a regular 3142 shaft. But there's all sorts of out there, like carbon fibre is very popular now because they're very low deflection and they're very powerful and they're never going to warp or get dints in them. They're great for amateurs because they're very powerful cues and they're going to last a lifetime. They're very hard to break, you know what I mean? So there's like the technology now in pool's incredible. And there's cues what go for like, there's cues at $100,000, cues at $200,000, diamonds in them and everything, like custom made cues. Like there's loads of guys with like $5,000-$10,000 cues, but the guys with like sponsorships from Predator or Mez cues or like Jacoby cues, they're like roughly a good cue. You can get a good cue for like $1,000, even maybe $700 or $800. But the average price is probably like $1,000 for a decent cue.
So when you're in America, because if you've never been to America, Dan, you've been to America, I've been to America, Dan, you've been to America. It's an unbelievable country, right? The people are totally different. It's just a crazy place to go. You can be stood in a bar in America, you can have a game of pool with somebody for a couple of, and they always want to play you for a couple of bucks. Yeah. So you're walking in to these, I'm assuming you're walking into a pool hall. Is it like the movie The Colour of Money? You're literally saying, I'm going to miss a few just so I can lure you in. Is it like that? Yeah, maybe not so much now, but it was when I first went there. It was crazy, and obviously back in the 80s, it was like that's what it was, America, in the 90s. So what I did is that in 2006, I started spending a lot of time in the Philippines because I thought I need to learn this game properly. Yeah. So the best way to do that is go to the Philippines, play all those guys for like. I end up just going there thinking I'm just going to play cheap sets. Like, just play for cheap. Get the expert playing Efren Reyes, Bustamante, Alex Pagaline, Ronnie Alcano. I mean, it's just stacked with. It's like the Filipinos are like the Brazilians at football. So I thought this is a place to go. It was an amazing experience. But I ended up playing like massive money games in the Philippines, and I managed to like hustle them to play 8-ball a lot. Wow. So they didn't know my 8-ball background. So I sort of robbed them all playing 8-ball. But so then I had the money then to play them at 9-ball and 10-ball. And I sort of held my own against them, really. But I mean, but I wouldn't have minded if I would have lost because the experience I got was incredible. I mean, so I was playing top players like Warren Kayamko, Levan Corteza, Jeff DeLuna. I was playing those guys for massive money, and I was beating the majority of them. But I stayed away from like that time. I stayed away from playing people like Bustamante, Efren Reyes for big money because I knew it wouldn't be very. You kill your money. Yeah, not only that, but also they was too good at that particular time. And then, how good is Reyes in practice? Because obviously, unbelievable. I mean, I think he's brilliant, unbelievable. I played him a few sets in the Philippines for like $200-$300, and a few races to 15. And he drilled me like 15-3, 15-6, 15-8, and it was just like he just thinking this guy's just like God. You know what I mean? He just does things what no one else can do. And when he finds a gear, it's just it's impossible to play against him. But it was a great experience. So then in 2007, I thought, I'm going to go to America. And it was a lot easier than playing the Filipinos. So for the first 6 months, I was robbing everyone out there, really. I was getting in bad games as well, like giving big handicaps. But I was playing so well because I learned from the experience in the Philippines. I learned how to play safe, play in the right shots, everything else. And then obviously after about 6 months, the internet started getting more powerful then. So when I left
I remember robbing a guy in Florida for like $15,000. But the mistake I made is that I told the guy that I was going to New York to play another guy. So what happened there is that when I left the pool room in Florida, these guys phoned the guys in New York to say there's an English guy coming over called Darren Appleton.
He's taking everyone's money.
Be careful. So I was going over there like to play this Mexican guy, thinking I was going to rob him. And then when I got there, they wanted like a massive handicap. So they changed the game because the guys in Florida had grassed on me. So like an idiot I was at that time, I was like a big ego, let's say. I thought, well, I'm going to give him the handicap. So I give this really good Mexican player called Chavez a massive handicap, and he beat me. But I took him to the wire. So sometimes I sort of jumped in a few games, what I shouldn't have done. So towards the end, like at the end of 2007, 2008, it was getting more and more difficult in the pool rooms because everyone started recognising me. Because the word was getting around because of the internet, you see. Where obviously back in the 80s and 90s, nobody really had the internet, so it was easy to like hustle and get away with it. But at this time, it was becoming more dangerous if you started hustling because the news was getting to social media. You know what I mean? So you had to start to be careful. So, and especially now, it's virtually impossible for me to go in a pool room now and try and hustle somebody. But I wouldn't do that anyway because it's quite dangerous. There's people who've been shot. There's people who've been held at gunpoint. People have been robbed and everything. You know what I mean?
How does that happen? You got £15,000. You just walk out there with the cash in your pocket, or
one time I was in
dangerous.
New York in the suburbs, Brooklyn, and they had to like escort me through the exit door because there was people waiting at the front. Yeah. Because that's what they did back then. Because I beat like this Hispanic guy playing 8-ball, like last pocket 8-ball, it's called. Where whenever you make your last ball, you've got to make the 8-ball. And the Hispanics are really good at this game. We live in America, so obviously me being an 8-ball player, I'm thinking, well, I don't care really. I thought that sounds even better for me. Like you've got to make the 8-ball in the same pocket you make your last ball. I thought, well, that's even better. And I sort of robbed this guy, and obviously they wanted to kill me. That's just the way it is, because they didn't think they could lose at that game. You know what I mean? So they tried to hustle me. You know what I mean? So it works both ways. But in the end, I was only matching up against players who at my level. If I play even, or I'd give like big handicaps playing one pocket. So there's always money games in America. Even when you go in the pool room now, like they always want to play you for money, but they want to get a big spot against someone like me. They want like a big handicap.
How much did you end up? How much do you think you ended up? How much do you think you were? Did it fund you on the tour out there? And
well, yeah, I sort of had like a manager stroke backer also. So we were going out. So obviously over that like a 2-year period, we definitely we probably won like $150,000 between us. Oh wow! Like profit. But obviously we all travel expenses, everything.
Yeah.
But it was just a great experience, and then 2008. That's when I really started to focus on the tournaments. I thought, right, I'm going to just play tournaments now and just play like the odd money game. Where 2007, I was really, and 2006, I was really just a money player, really.
So, what do you think of the UK money scene now? Because there's quite a few quid going on that now. You know, you're seeing players play for 40k, 50k.
No, yeah, I mean the money matches involved is incredible. Because when I was playing, from the age of 16, let's say 17 until like 26, 27, I was playing like 3,000, 4,000 pound sets, 5,000 pound sets, and I thought that was massive back then. You know what I mean? I was playing like all sorts of players like Ross, McKinney, Steve Webster, Terry Hunt, all those guys, Rob Chilton. Ronan McCarthy. I mean, that was big money back then. But now they're playing for like 50,000, like it's nothing.
Do you want some of that?
Well, I did think about it last year, but I'm thinking I'd have to really put like a good 4 or 5, 6 weeks real hardcore practicing to challenge someone like Tom Cousin or a Mark Farm.
You're not going to get an easy game, though, are you? That's the thing.
What about George Tierney? Would you play George Tierney, Darren?
Yeah, but he's. I don't think he will play. Well, he's
no.
Obviously, he's got a big handicap, but he's entertaining to watch, isn't he?
He is.
But I mean, if I went back to English 8-ball, then I'd definitely get involved. But while I'm still playing American pool, it's so hard to keep switching. So I have like switched over to play a couple of tournaments at English 8-ball, but when I'm only playing like 70% of my potential, it's a bit frustrating. And I know that I've still got a lot to offer with the American pool. So, and now I'm back playing full time. So, but the English 8 ball's still there on the back burner. Maybe one day, we never know.
That was the hardest thing about watching you play in the Supreme Series.
Mm-hmm.
You were better before.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you were better before.
The only match I played where I felt I've got the cue ball exactly where I want it was in the semi-final against Adam Davis.
Yeah.
It's the best I've felt since like 2004 or 2005. It's the only time I felt I've got the cue ball exactly where I want it to go. That's the only match. And if I would have kept playing after that tournament full time, I think I would have got back to that level.
Yeah.
But it's that little 20-30% makes a huge difference when you're not putting the cue ball exactly where you want it. You're not even sure where it's going to go. You're sort of guessing a little bit. Then it's so when you play people like Mick Hill and Matt Farnsworth and Matt Boyle, all them guys, you've got to get. You're sort of hoping to win, really, instead of thinking you can win. You know what I mean?
You think of the pool scene now? Do you think it's the same as when it was in the 90s? Do you think it's not as good?
The game's a lot more wide open. I'd probably say the equipment's a lot easier now. The cloths are a lot thinner, so that makes
pockets are big,
definitely bigger. The balls are a lot better.
Yeah,
Pro Cups.
Sure. So the equipment's definitely easier, but you could say that at all sports. You know what I mean? I'd probably say there's more strength in depth now.
Yeah, definitely.
The top 64 players are really, really strong compared to, let's say, when I was playing. There was only really maybe 20, 25 players who were really, really title contenders. But I still think the top 8 players from my era are better than the top 8 players in this era. Like your Mick Hill, your Gareth Potts, Phil Harrison, myself, Jason Twist, Chris Mellin. I mean, those guys, Mark Selby. I mean, those guys were like really. Because Mark Farnsworth were playing then, you know. He was playing like then as what he is now. And he was like maybe a 10 to 16 player. No disrespect to him. Where obviously now he's probably one of the best players, you know what I mean? Maybe he's improved with confidence by winning tournaments.
It's really weird, though. I always wanted Lee Kendall to win.
Yeah,
the only reason I wanted Lee Kendall to win because Dan, back me up on this. My mate Craig looks identical to him.
Separated at birth.
They were separated at birth.
What's he doing?
If you saw a picture of those, I've never seen Lee Kendall and Craig Moore in the same room together. Have you, Dan?
Definitely something going on.
There's definitely something going on there. They are identical. So in 2008, you've done something that you know a mere mortal like me, a better player like Dan could only dream of. You've become a world champion.
Yeah,
talk us through that.
Really. I guess it was quite fate, really, because obviously I did my education in the Philippines, really, 2006, 2007. I spent a hell of a lot of time there. I probably spent like a total of 6 months out of 12 months in the Philippines. So then to start my full year on the circuit in 2008, I got off to a really good start. I won a Euro Tour. So that qualified me for all the tournaments and the World Championships and stuff like that. So going into the World 10 Ball Championships, which was the first ever World 10 Ball Championships in the Philippines, oh, this is great. And it was $100,000 to the winner. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of money, so I'm thinking, right, this would be nice. But I never thought I was going to win it. I was probably, if there was a book on the tournament, I would probably been like maybe 66 to 1 shot, maybe 50 to 1. If there was probably 50 to 1, I'd say is about right. But as matches just went on, I thought, all right, I'm sort of playing well here. And then obviously, before you know it, you're in the last 16. And then I played a big match last 16, got over the line 11-10, I think it was. And then you start thinking, oh, maybe it's I've got a chance here. And then obviously the draw sort of opened up a little bit. I played a guy called Charlie Williams in the quarterfinal for that particular stage of the tournament. I thought, well, I'm favourite in that match. So I beat him quite comfortable. And then in the semi-final, I played Niels Feijen, obviously one of the top European guys. But at that time, I'd beat him a few times. I thought, all right, I've got a chance here. But that was my worst match, actually. I played terrible, but so did Niels. I think we were both trying a bit too hard. So when I got to the final, I managed to fall off the line against Niels. So when I got to the final, I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm in the final here. But then I was playing Wu Chia-Ching, and I'm thinking, well, I'm a big underdog here. Because at that time, he was the best player in the world, for sure. I mean, he won the World 9 Ball and the World 8 Ball in 2006. Back-to-back world titles at 16 years old. He was 16 years old.
Good.
Wow.
In 2008, he was a man to beat. He was like 18 years old. He was a monster. So I thought, just go out and enjoy it. And then, but when I was practicing before the match, I probably never hit the ball as good in my whole life. And I told my manager, Dave Wright, I says, Dave, I've never felt so good before in my whole life on the cue. I mean, that's including any cue sport I played. I says, I think I'm going to win this match. And he's like, give me that little funny look, thinking, well, maybe you're like a bit too confident. I says, no, I says, I just feel like I'm going to win. I says, I've never felt this good on the cue before. When you put the cue up, it's very rare you get that feeling.
Yeah.
Where you hold the cue and you're in total control of what you're doing. And then even when I went out for the final, I just felt really ease and calm. I didn't even think about the money because it was $100,000 to the winner and $40,000 for second. So it was a massive difference in money. But the money never crossed my mind, really. I was just thinking, well, I just want to win the tournament because I'd never won a world championship. Obviously, I never thought my first world championship would be at 10 ball. So
for us mere mortals, so I'll never get to the position where I'll be a world champion, which saddens me.
Yeah.
But how did it feel when you were clearing up and you knew? Because when you're clearing up and how did it feel?
Well, I played unbelievable in the match. I was up 11-4 and I raced to 13. And then I sort of knew he'd come back anyway, or if he gets a chance, he'll come back. Because then it was winner break also.
Yeah.
So he started playing amazing. He starts playing all these bank shots and everything else. But, oh, shit. And then you start getting that feeling, like I did with Mick Hill when he come back and beat me. And then you're thinking, oh, shit. And then he got back to like 12-11. And then he's broke dry on the break. But he's left me a really tough first shot. And I knew if I make this shot, I'll probably win the match as long as I don't
switch up.
So once I made that first shot, and I was shaking like hell, actually. And then once I made the first shot and the second shot, I thought, as long as my arm doesn't drop off here, I should be okay. But you still got that little bit of fear that you shouldn't miss, but you can miss. You know what I mean? It's probably like the worst feeling, really, because you're thinking, well, sometimes the balls can be laying too nicely for you. You know what I mean?
Darren, this is the crazy thing. This is the crazy thing. You're 12. You're on the verge of winning the world championship.
Yeah.
Now there are people out there on social media who cannot hold a cue, who say that you twitch up at big moments. This is a massive moment.
Oh yeah, it was like a massive moment, and then obviously I'm thinking, right, this is my opportunity. This is what I've played my whole career for, to be world champion. So when I got to the final, once I got to the final 10 ball, I had to go back to my chair because I was getting emotional. Because then I start thinking about my parents. Because at that time, my father had just had an heart attack maybe about 3 or 4 months before that. He's okay. And my mother had some health issues at that time also. So I started getting really emotional, thinking, oh, I've finally done it. I've waited a long time for this. So when I made the final ball, it was just like the best feeling of all time. And everything changed after that tournament. My mentality, everything else. And, my confidence just grew, my self-belief. And then the floodgates opened. It just like the greatest feeling in the world. And I was in the Philippines. The venue was amazing, and the after party was even better. And then it was just, I was like just getting drunk for 2 weeks after that. It was just amazing.
And that's the great thing. You're just like one of us. If you have a good win, you have a good chance. And there's
no doubt about it.
But then something magical happens. So you then get invited to the Moscone Cup.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Because the Moscone Cup, I love it. I think it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
How did that feel? How do you get the call to say, can you be in the Moscone Cup?
Who calls you? Is it Barry Hearn who goes, can we get you in the team?
Well, at that time, believe it or not, when I won the World 10 Ball in 2008, I didn't get picked for the team, and I was absolutely devastated.
I bet you was.
I couldn't believe it.
So you were in 2009?
So in 2009, I says, when I didn't get picked in 2008, because then they sort of handpicked the team.
Yeah.
At that particular time. The only guy that was guaranteed was the European number 1 ranked player. So in 2009, I told myself, I'm going to qualify every year now. That sort of like gave me even more determination. So that year, I had a really good year, 2009. I won the World Pool Masters, everything else, which was a matchroom event. So then they had to pick me. Went to Vegas. It was just amazing. So obviously, I qualified sort of by my results. That they didn't have a choice but to pick me in 2009. I think if there was a ranking list, I would have qualified anyway. So I got picked really early, actually. I sort of knew in May or June that I was in the team. So I had a long wait until I got there.
So how does it happen? Do you just get like a phone call?
Well, obviously, Barry, not Barry Earn, but the people who work at Matchroom, like Luke Riches at the time, he sent me an email saying, "Congratulations, you're in the team. Just keep it quiet for now until we make the announcements."
Wow.
And everything else. And then in 2010, they started to bring like more of a ranking system in to play. Yeah. So if you were in the top 2 or 3 in the rankings, you'd qualify that way, and then a couple of wild cards. So for the first 3 or 4 years, first 4 or 5 years, I qualified, and then the last 2 years, I had to rely on a wild card.
Do you think it's gone downhill since they brought in the ranking system? Or the quality of players in the team?
It's a tough one, really. I mean, I think if Europe could unpick our team like the Americans have been doing, it'd be because you're always going to get 1 or 2 players what qualify for the rankings where you probably wouldn't be your first pick, let's say. But they're still really good players. So that's why the Matchroom's done it, because they was desperate for America to win. So they've been doing everything they can, really, to help America get back to that level, which is obviously good for the game. But there's no feeling like it. Playing the Moscone Cup is just, it's hard to explain. There's no feeling like it.
And it's become a bit of a standard celebration of you standing on the table ever since, has it?
Well, yeah, I probably started. and the guys,
Darren, I have got a really odd question to ask you. Have you got your keys there with you?
My keys, yeah.
Is Shane Van Boning on your keychain?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it, really? I don't know why, but I just have a great record against him. I probably, out of all
Moscone?
the players, I might be the only guy with a winning record against Shane head-to-head in every tournament, you know what I mean? I mean, it's unbelievable.
The Moscone especially. You've absolutely been his governor.
6-1 or something like that.
Is he fuming? Wow. Is he like sat there? Is he fuming? It's like, I've got Darren again.
Yeah, I think in the end, I just got into his head. I think he does something in his head, let's say, and even a couple of times I didn't play great against him, I still won, you know what I mean? So, but there was a few times where I really put clinics on against him, so I think he gets a lot of bad press because of his record in the Moscone, but
yeah,
I think the guy should be given more credit who beat him, really. Because I think, in my opinion, from 2010 to 2016, I'd say, I think the European teams were really, really strong
and dominated the Moscone Cup during.
Yeah, I think the last 2 or 3. I think the European. I think the teams haven't been great in my opinion.
Since you've left the team, they haven't won one.
Maybe. I mean, I'm one of them guys. I'm a leader, right? So even when I'm not playing, I sort of am the captain, really, out the players, let's say. So I do a lot of work inside the team room, outside, away from the game. I like people to come to me and speak to me. I like to give advice to the players and say the right things to them. So obviously, just using my knowledge of, because I've been playing teams for a long time. We English 8-ball, and I've captained a lot of teams. So I love that team environment where a lot of the Europeans, they've never played team events before. You know what I mean? So it's something new to them.
Yeah. So how did it feel to be MVP?
Well, I didn't really think about it, really, until it happened. I knew in 2010 that's probably the best I've ever played in Moscone. So I sort of never even thought about it, really. I mean, obviously, it's just a nice bonus. I mean, I wouldn't really care if I lost 6 out of 6 and the team won.
Yeah.
Did you play Earl Strickland?
The MVP is just a nice bonus. I've only played early in the doubles in the Moscone Cup.
Yep.
I never played him in the single, but obviously I played him in tournaments. Yeah, I played him for money. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Is he really, though? Is he really as horrible as he comes across on TV? Because I think it's a show. Is he really actually a nice guy off the
I think he's a bit bipolar. Obviously, he's bipolar. He's had a lot of issues in his life, and obviously, he's a flawed genius. Really, he's just off the table. He'll talk really nice to you. He'll tell you all these stories. He's very fascinating to listen to. He's a big personality. He's got that presence about him. But when he's on the table, I mean, especially the last 7-8 years, he's just got worse and worse. Like, obviously, his levels dropped a little bit. He can't compete as consistently as what he used to do. He beats himself a lot. So then he gets angry towards you. He starts abusing you. He starts calling you names, even when you're down in the shop. But the TV doesn't pick this up. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
So he's shacking you to death. He's saying bad things about you. But you prepare for it before you're playing because you know what he's like. So you mentally prepare for that. So it don't really bother me. And I've played him loads of times. It's just like, I think, right, just don't say anything. Because if you respond to him, for some reason, it makes him play better.
So who won your money match when you played against him? How much did you play for?
He was asking for a 4-pocket table with outside pockets for years. He says nobody can beat him on a 4-pocket table.
Yeah, I remember that.
he had this table specially made from diamond tables, and nobody had challenged him. And then I think his manager or his backer, he says, "Do you want to play him?" I says, "Yeah, let's go." So I played him, and I won quite easy. I thought, well, this table don't really suit him because it become a very tactical game. And Earl's a very fluent player. You know what I mean? He likes to get on with it and just start getting into a rhythm. So it sort of played into my hands, really. So I don't know what he was thinking there. I won easy. I mean, we played like best of 21 each set, like best of like 11 sets, and I beat him like 6-1 or something like that.
How much did you take off him?
About $10,000.
Oh, that's ill. That's actually ill.
But there was money on the side as well. Like
I wonder who calls you names.
When they play for money in America, there might only be like $5,000 or $10,000 in the middle.
Yeah.
You can guarantee there's 20,000, 30,000 on the side, like people betting on the side. So you can take some of that action also. So
you've then gone on to win the US Open in 2010. Great year. Absolutely great year for you. You've won the US Open. You beat Corey Duell in the US Open final. Corey made an attempt to qualify to be a professional snooker player. Did you know that? Did you actually know that? So he went to Q school. He got beat by a guy from Portsmouth. Got beat by a guy called Jason Weston in qualifying. But he was a terrific player.
Yeah, very
and
good.
That's gone through the silence. So people saying to you, "Oh, Darren's got bottle problems," you've beaten 13-12.
Yeah, I mean, where the bottle problems come from, maybe the
YouTube.
Yeah, or maybe like I twitched up once, twice in the English 8-ball. But I think if you ask all the pros who the best pressure player was, I think 90% of them will say me.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. It lives on the internet, doesn't it? That rubbish.
American pool, especially. You know what I mean? I'm renowned for my mental strength and being great under pressure. So there's always going to be haters out there, or you might have dogged some ball, and people remember that. But everyone bottles it now and again.
Or plays a bad shot, a legitimately bad shot.
I've never seen any player not bottle it or dog a ball. You know what I mean?
We can all twitch up. So you've repeated the feat in 2011. You've won the US Open again. And then in 2012, you've done it in a decider again, but this time for the World 9-Ball Championship. Talk us through that tournament.
Well, that was unbelievable. I mean, at that time, I was like the number one in the world anyway, so my confidence was really high going into that tournament. I was on a good run. I remember it really well. And I actually went there and I told my wife at the time that I think I'm going to win this tournament. And to win the World 9-Ball Championship, it might happen once, maybe twice if you're lucky in your lifetime, because it's so hard to win. And because once you get to the final 64, it becomes single elimination, and you got all the best players there. So you need a lot of luck, especially 9-ball. And I just had a feeling that I was gonna. I just had a feeling that year that I might win it. So first time it's the only time I've gone to the World 9-Ball Championship and felt that I think this is my year. So it was weird, really. And then it just progressed. I was playing well. And then when I got to the quarter final, I had no doubts in my mind that I was going to win it. So it was weird. And then obviously the final, I played unbelievable to be 11-4, and then I just got a bit anxious. And then my opponent played. I should have won the match 13-6. I snookered myself to win 13-6 just with the adrenaline. I overscrew a ball like by about 2 feet by just a pure adrenaline, and I could have just played a stop shot. I remember it really well. And then after that, I didn't really get much of a chance. Maybe played 1 or 2 bad safeties, and he started playing really well. And at 9-ball, once you lose that momentum, it's massive. And then all of a sudden it's 12-12, and I've gone to the toilet. I think it was at 12-12. I'm thinking if I lose this match, I'm going to jump off a bridge. I mean, to be 12-6 up and to lose that match, I would have been absolutely devastated.
I bet.
So as you see, the celebrations probably told you that.
But what's going through your mind at 12-12?
That's the greatest finish of my life. I mean, that jump shot at 12-12, that's probably the best shot I've ever played in my life, because it was one of them jump shots where I've got to hit it perfect speed. Yeah. To keep the white ball on the table for a start. And obviously when you're pumped up, your adrenaline's flying and you're like, your head's not in the best place anyway because of what's happened. So I'm thinking, look, you have to make this ball. If I don't make this ball, I've lost. So something just comes over you, you know what I mean? You just like that little bit of calmness at the right time.
Is that something you work on, that mental?
Yeah, a lot of mental strength. You learn from your experiences in the past. You learn how to compose yourself better, taking an extra 2 or 3 seconds, gritting your teeth, all that stuff, putting the right amount, the right quality practice in on the table, maybe like a lot of visualization and stuff like that, just Just stick to the basics. That's what I told myself. Just like once I made the jump shot, after that, I'm thinking, right, because then you really start shaking, you know what I mean? Especially because I had the pressure. My opponent didn't have the pressure because he's like just happy to be 12-12, where I'm like devastated to be 12-12. So that's where you've got the bad pressure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now my whole body's shaking, but I'm thinking, right, just keep your head still and just cue the ball. That's all you got to do. And luckily, I managed to do it. I don't know how, but just managed to hold it together. And obviously, when I got to the 9 ball, I thought it was just a big relief. Really, I was quite angry with myself. You know what I mean? When I got to the 9 ball, I was really angry with myself for putting myself in that position to put myself under that extreme pressure. So that's where you see the celebration at the end when I jumped on the table.
Yeah, it was some celebration.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I threw my cue. I threw my cue really hard against the floor, and somehow it's bounced around. Right, seriously, it's bounced around as a cue, and it's like propped up in like perfectly in the corner of the banners. You know where the banners? It's just purposely like propped up in the corner. I thought that's so lucky. It's unbelievable. So it's amazing how I didn't break the cue, because in 2010 when I played Dennis Hatch in the Moscone, I just sort of banged my cue on the floor just like this after I beat him, and it snapped in half.
So if you go on your Wikipedia page, it's like you've virtually won everything. It's about 6 pages long. What's been your favourite moment of them wins?
It's a tough one. A lot of people ask me that. The World Games was very close when I won the gold medal at the World
you won a gold medal.
Colombia against Chang Junlin, 11-10. That was incredible.
Another decider, Darren, I'm going to point out.
Unbelievable. And you won't believe what, at 10-9, right? At 10-9, I needed to go to the restroom, like that's what they call it over there in America, toilet. And I'm absolutely busting to go to the toilet. But I'd already taken my time out maybe like 30 minutes before. But when you got that bit of adrenaline, you get the butterflies, your bladder can become weak. And I drank a lot of water because we was playing in Colombia and the conditions were very humid.
Oh, yeah.
And I was drinking loads of water and I really needed to go to the toilet. And the toilet's just right 50 yards away. And I said to the referee, can I go to the toilet? He says, no, you've got to use your timeout. I said, look, I need to go, otherwise I'm going to piss on the floor. And they wouldn't let me go. So when he's racking the balls, I thought, well, if I don't go, I'm going to have to piss in the corner room. And obviously there's hundreds of people there. So I just ran to the toilet, had a quick piss, didn't even wash my hands, because I'm thinking, well, I need to get back before he's finished racking the balls. So when I've got back to the table, he's just finished racking the balls. The officials have come over, and they've given the rack to my opponent. So now it's instead of 10-9, it's 10-10, and it should have been my break. They've also given the break also. Luckily, he missed the 1 ball at 10-10, and I managed to clear up.
Can I ask this though, Darren? Did you have to shake his hand at the decider?
No, I don't think I did, actually, because I was really angry with everybody, actually. And actually, when I won, I had a crazy celebration there, where I sort of did like a backflip, and my cues landed on the snooker table behind me. Because at the World Games, they have snooker, pool, and carom. So I like threw my cue, and it's landed on the snooker table. I think my favourite would be probably the World 10 ball, just because it opened the floodgates, and it was my first World Championship. But I think my biggest achievement is beating Mark Selby in the Chinese 8-ball World Final.
2014, Darren.
Oh, yeah.
You've won the 14-1 tournament.
Yeah.
Talk us through that, because that was massive.
Yeah, the 2014 14-1 World Championship. And to be fair, back then it was a World Championship, because it isn't a sanctioned tournament. It isn't sanctioned by the WPA, so it's not an official World Championship, but at least it was a World Championship field from, let's say, 2011 to 2015. And then since then it's gone downhill, because the prize money is terrible in that particular tournament, and the organizer doesn't do a great job there. I actually played better the year before. I broke the world record in the semi-final against Buster Matty. I run 200 and out as the first guy.
You beat him 200-1. 200-1 you beat him, didn't you?
Well, he got the first point, and then he made a mistake, and I run 200 and out. And then I lost the final. I just didn't play well in the final. I sort of burnt out a little bit. So you beat the world record by 27. So the previous world record was 173, and you've ran 200.
Yeah.
So
that's unreal.
Yeah.
Did you know what the world record was before you?
Well, for the head-to-head tournament, I didn't know the world record. Like a race to 200 or a race to 150. I had no idea until they announced it when I got to my last rack. So I thought,
no pressure.
No, put your
Yeah,
thanks.
so I
Yeah,
thought-
no pressure. So you didn't twitch. You didn't twitch up. You just obviously took the world record.
the organisers come on like the microphone and announced it just as I was about to play the break shot. But at that time, I didn't care. I was flying. So
What's been your highest in practice?
in practice, 296.
Wow.
But I don't play loads of straight pull. I think if I played a hell of a lot of straight pull, then I maybe could give. I mean, obviously the world record is 626 from John Smith, but that's playing on your own and on a 5-inch pocket, where my pockets are 4.25, so it's going to be virtually impossible to do it on my table.
I love straight pull. I wish people would play it more. I think for me, it's just such a beautiful game. And you watch those old videos of Willie Moscone playing it on YouTube and stuff, and you're like, these guys are actual geniuses when they play. So I've got a lot of time for straight pull.
It's a great practice game as well for your concentration. But on the English 8-ball table, I do hold the world record on the English 8-ball table. But
what's that?
But you guys play it different. You play where you just break the balls and then you just make them all and then rack them back up and then you just play from where the cue ball lands, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have 466.
What?
No, you don't.
466 balls in a row.
Mikhail tried to beat it a few times. I think he got like 452 or something.
Oh.
He got close. He got very close to it.
466 though.
Yeah, 466 still.
So how would you do that? You would leave the last ball on the table and then go into.
No, I think English 8-ball to leave the last ball on the table and break the balls is probably virtually impossible to get a 300 or 400 break. Maybe you can get maybe 100, 200 break, but because the balls are so light, the balls the rack's not going to split very well.
Yeah,
I would like to try it actually. I've never tried that version. You know what I mean? Back then, that's the way we played 14-1. But yeah, in 2014, didn't play great till the semis, but then in the semis and the final, I played really well. I played Shane Van Bonen in the final, and I beat him in 2 innings. It was a race 200, and I beat him in 2 innings. I got a 68 and a 1-3 2 and out to beat him.
So you let him off your keychain to play that match?
Yeah. Except for the World Masters final when he beat me in 2015. I think it's the only time he's beat me in a final. So I'm quite happy with my record against him. He's just one of those guys.
Yeah,
obviously, he's a hell of a player. So when you play him, it's like playing Mickey or Gareth Potts at English 8-ball. You know you've got to play your best.
But you seem to own him.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, it happens, doesn't it? Sometimes you have a good record against one guy, but not a great record against another guy who isn't as good. It's just the way it is.
We see you play, or I saw you play in the Mountbatten Centre here in Portsmouth for the World Cup of Pool.
I was just thinking that with you being from Portsmouth.
I was there.
Pool in 2014.
And you won the doubles with Carl.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And that was me, a little bit younger I was then, so that was how many years ago? A few years ago. Now. And I think I was just reminded yesterday, I went to give you a high five after you won, and you blanked me. I was left with my hand in the air.
If I couldn't like you anymore, Darren, I like you a lot more now.
Yeah.
I was left there.
You did that deliberately as well, didn't you, Darren?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I must have been on a crazy high or something. It was crazy. The way we won that match in the end was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's Cole snooked himself, didn't I think? Did he snook himself or miss?
Carl, they like messed up, didn't they? They had a chance to beat us, and then they missed the 8-ball. Then Carl missed the 8-ball and snookered them. And then they come out of it, nearly fluked it, and left me like a little bit of a tricky shot. When you're under pressure, I thought, well, don't be dogging this ball now. I'll look like a right idiot. But because they've just dogged it twice between them, Carl and what's his name, Neil Spyan. I'm thinking, well, don't be missing this one now. So crazy.
And then in 2015, it's taken you 9 years. You've got the ultimate revenge on Mark Selby. Now, for those who have never played Chinese 8-ball, it is one of the most brutal, hard games ever. I potted one ball down the rail on a Chinese 8-ball table. I thought I was Ronnie O'Sullivan. That's how hard they are.
Yeah, and believe it or not, those tables are tighter than the joy tables. The star tables are tighter than the joy tables.
So talk us through that, Darren, because that was massive, huge.
It was unbelievable, because I'd only played about 3 or 4 tournaments before that, but actually 3 tournaments before that. I finished 3rd in the joy tournament, like one of the first years, like 2013. 14, I did okay, and then 15, I was in Thailand for 2 weeks. I'm on holiday before the tournament, so I was drinking every night. I had no preparation at all because I didn't really have any big expectations. So I thought, well, I'll go there about 5 days before the tournament starts so that I can practice. Because obviously in the UK, I didn't have a table to practice on. I just played a little bit of snooker before I went to Thailand, and then when I was in Thailand, I played a little bit of snooker also because it's quite big. It's quite big in Thailand, snooker. So I just played on the snooker table, and then when I got there, just practiced for like 3 or 4 days before the tournament, and for some reason everything just clicked. And obviously I had to change my cue action coming from American pool to Chinese 8-ball. So I went back to cueing the ball the way I did it when I was younger playing English 8-ball. So I was a lot more bringing the cue into my body more
compact.
A bit more compact. That little pause at the back instead of pausing at the cue ball. And then after a few days, I just started getting the feel for it. And then to be fair, that's probably the best I've ever played, actually. I played unbelievable, really, in the tournament. And then in the final, I played great up to like 16-10. And I felt as if I should have won the game easy. But I just got a bit anxious because, like, the tables are very tough. And you sort of, I was sort of like waiting for the chances to come to me instead of like trying to finish the game off, if you know what I mean. And with Mark Selby's reputation, you know that he plays better when he's losing than he does when he's in front. So I was waiting for him to come back at me.
And also, it wouldn't be a Darren Appleton tournament win if there wasn't a little bit of drama in there. So you were just playing to the crowd, right?
Yeah.
You did that to keep us all on our toes.
I'm one of those guys what make life difficult for myself.
Was it nice giving... I'm not saying you gave 2 fingers up to Mark Selby, but was it nice just to say, actually, I've done you? Have that?
Yeah, and obviously we're not the best of friends. I think most people know the story. Obviously, I was engaged to his wife. At the time, we was actually best friends, you know.
Really?
We used to practice together all the time. I used to go to Leicester about 2 or 3 times a week. He lived at my house for about 2 months when he broke up with his wife. So we was really close friends. So anyway, that's just history, really. So and I hadn't seen him since 2006 when he beat me in the final there. I've probably seen him once in 9 years. So obviously, but we actually spoke a little bit that week, let's say, before we even played each other in the final. But obviously, we're not the same like we used to be. But I don't think there's any real animosity there anymore. Just more disappointment, really, the way things ended between me and him, really. Not so much me and Vicky. It's more like just losing his friendship, really, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still still follow his snooker career. You know what I mean? I'm one of them guys that I just let it go, and it's water under the bridge. Life goes on. You know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. So I wasn't going into the final thinking that I have to win this match. It was more like I really want to win the match. You know what I mean?
Can I let you in on a little secret here? I was buzzing that you won that match, and I'll explain why. I would rather watch paint dry than watch Mark Selby play.
Yeah, everyone's got their own.
Is that bad? Is that bad? I watched him at the 2007 World Championship, so I was actually there when he got to the final, and I don't know how he pots a ball because he rocks when he cues. I can't.
He used to be a lot worse. He used to be a lot worse than that. You know?
Yeah.
You know, like when he first come on the scene from, let's say, 2002 to 2007, he used to cue about 3 or 4 inches away from the cue ball.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And I was the guy who changed his cue action. I told him, I said, you need to get close to the cue ball, feather the cue ball, otherwise you've got no chance of making it to the top. And at the time, he said to me, I want to be world number 1 and world champion. This was around 2004. And I'm thinking, you've no chance.
Not playing like that, no. No, because he broke through early, though, didn't he?
Sorry?
He broke through early, didn't he? He got to a ranking event final in 99, so he was very young.
Yeah, that's when he was doing like about a foot away from the cue ball.
Yeah, and then he just went boom. He just nearly fell off the tour a couple of times, and then obviously he had a couple of good wins in 2005, 2006, and then 2007 he's got to the world final. Yeah. And it was like literally it was so hard to watch. Literally, I felt like I had motion sickness watching him play.
Well, I think in the early years he was a very negative player. Anyway, he didn't go into the pack early.
That's correct.
He was picking the balls. You know what I mean? Like a Cliff Forbin, let's say.
Like an 80s player.
Yeah. Where obviously Hendry, all them guys, they attack as quick as possible. So with Selby, once he started queuing close to the cue ball, that's where his game really jumped up. And then he got to the final in 2007, like you said. But yeah, I mean, at times it can be painful to watch, can't it? Let's be honest.
But how much did you buzz? Walking towards him, come on, let me know how it felt. Walking towards him and going, I was going to swear and say F you very much, but thank you very much for the game.
I'll tell you the biggest mistake what I made and the biggest regret is that I tried to give him a hug.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was just that pure emotion. I thought, well,
I
shouldn't have really done that. I just was all over the place, like mentally, because again, it was a game what I nearly threw away. Obviously, I had a big lead. I ended up winning 21-19, and obviously put myself under severe pressure again for no reason. So at the end of it, it was weird because we didn't really speak too much, but we had to get the taxi back together to the airport.
Oh.
And his father-in-law was in the car with us as well, and obviously he was like my second dad for like 5 or 6 years. So it was a weird situation, let's say. There wasn't a great deal of conversation going on there, but we was okay. It is where it is. I just kept quiet, and then obviously when I got on the plane, because luckily we was on a different plane, I just got smashed on the plane.
Brilliant, absolutely.
Because after the final, I was flying about 4 hours after the final, so I didn't really get a chance to celebrate at the venue. So when I got on the plane, I just got smashed.
You've just become a Hall of Famer, haven't you, Darren?
It was unbelievable. 2015, when I won that Chinese 8-ball World Championship, that was like, in some ways, it hurt me because after I won that, because I've always wanted to win a World 8-ball Championship. It doesn't matter whether it's an English pool or any table, as long as it's 8-ball. And I did it, in my opinion, I did it on the toughest equipment.
I'd agree with that.
And it's $100,000 for the winner. The field was unbelievable. I mean, the standard was unbelievable.
The machines out there, the Chinese players.
The Chinese players are
just
robots. So anyway, that was like unbelievable, really. I just couldn't believe I'd won it. But after that, I sort of had a big low. I lost my motivation, I lost my hunger for the game. I sort of achieved everything in the game what I wanted to achieve. So I was running out of goals, let's say. And then things went wrong, like personally, I had a lot of issues with family, health, and that. Broke up with my wife, all that stuff. And it all happened at the same time, you know what I mean? So I just sort of lost the plot there for 2 or 3 years. Suffered with mental health as well, which didn't help, which I spoke about before on another interview I did. So I've been quite open about that. And then last 6 months, 12 months, I've come back and I'm back playing full time.
For those kind of, we've kind of not made a huge deal about it. So you're actually only the 69th member of the Hall of Fame. So for all the thousands, millions of players who have played the game, you're only the 69th member of that. And I believe you're the only English player that's ever been in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, except for Alison Fisher.
Alison Fisher, unbelievable women's player.
And I guess you could say Karen Cork, but she's Irish.
She's Irish, yeah. She's from Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
she's from Northern Ireland.
I'm only actually the fifth European player to get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Obviously, Oliver Altman, Ralph Souquet, Mika Himminen. So I'm actually the fourth.
Yeah. So what happens? Do they just like send you your award in the post, or do you go to a ceremony?
What happens is that you have to have at least a 10-year career.
Yeah.
And you have to be 40 years of age before February the 1st. And so I missed out by 1 year because my birthday is on February the 8th. Otherwise, I would have got inducted in 2016. But it worked out great because in 2017, it was the 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Right? So what happened is that they made it a massive show in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was absolutely massive. I mean,
I've been to the Mandalay Bay.
There was 500 people there. So it was the biggest BCA Hall of Fame dinner of all time. So I was very fortunate that it just dropped on my year. So I was lucky for one to do it so quickly with only having a 10-year career. So I believe I'm the quickest guy ever to get inducted. So that was like something to be proud about.
There's lots of great players that have played the game. Where do you rank yourself within them?
Not too sure. It's hard to, you sort of pinch yourself a little bit. I didn't really think of anything. Like from 2007 to let's say 2017, I didn't even realise what I achieved until like the last 2 or 3 years when I sort of took a big chunk out away from the game. I took a lot of time off. And then that's when I started to reflect a lot more. And I thought, I actually done all right at this game. And I'm thinking, I never really rated myself as the best player. I just knew that I could beat the best, you know what I mean? And obviously, but when I look back at my career now and then I judge it against other people's careers, I think, well, I've actually done all right here.
I'd swap careers with you, you know.
Yeah, it's like a weird one, really. I still look up to your Efren Reyes, and even though I've won more major titles than Bustamante, I still idolise the guy. You know what I mean?
He's unbelievable.
All these guys, Johnny Archer, Hill Strickland, Nick Varner. I mean, these are like iconic figures in the American pool. You know what I mean?
And you're in there.
Eagle. And
then, but you're in there alongside them.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, to be mentioned amongst them guys is like, you sort of pinch yourself a little bit, because I've never really looked at myself like that, really. So yeah, I've just been. I think maybe because it's just my style of play. I'm a very dogged, bulldog sort of style of player. I don't do anything flashy. I just do everything good. You know what I mean? I don't do anything exceptionally great like an Efren Reyes.
I think you're good to watch. I think you're good to watch. I'll sit through and I'll watch you. I'll watch you because you're good to watch.
Yeah, I think I'm one of them players where I don't play slow and I don't play quick, but I bring a lot of emotion to the game, I think.
Yeah.
That's it as well. You're a character.
Yeah.
I show a lot of emotion.
Before we move on to the state of the game now, kind of where you are now, every single person that comes on the podcast gets asked the same 5 questions. This is our section called Under the Lights. Dan will be totally underprepared. Guaranteed he's not got his questions there.
I've actually, for the first time, actually got my questions.
Oh, okay.
A notebook and I can't.
Here we go, Dan. On you go.
So this is Under the Lights. Insert theme tune, which I say every time. It's very funny. So there's your 5 questions, Darren. Reds or yellows?
Reds.
Obviously, because you're a Man United fan, unfortunately. So question number 2. Who's your pool nemesis?
Mick Hill.
Because he's always beating you.
Yeah, he's probably the only guy what's got a winning record against me at English 8 ball.
Wow. Question number 3. Tell us something about yourself that people don't know about you.
I had a really bad stutter when I was younger. Still got it, but nowhere near like I used to have it.
Question number 4. If you could be in one movie, which would it be?
Probably Rocky 2.
Which one's Rocky 2? That's his
Rocky
comeback,
2 is the double knockdown, Dan.
Yeah.
It's the double knockdown.
It's like the greatest fight of all time, isn't it?
It's the double knockdown. Come on, this is a boxing fan here. I'm a boxing fan as well, Darren, so I relate to that.
Classic movies, aren't they?
Unbelievable.
And question number 5. Who is the best player you've ever played against?
Can I say 2?
Of course you can.
English 8 ball and American pool. Well, Mick Hill at English 8 ball. And the American pool, best player I played against. Probably Wu Chia-Ching.
Wow. I was expecting Efren.
Unexpected, yeah.
Yeah, different. It's not quite my hero. So I've got a good record against Efren, where Wu Chia-Ching is just so hard to beat.
Have you got a winning record against Efren Reyes?
Yeah, but obviously
I've got a Famer.
Career,
But Efren is like, I don't know, he's a legend.
He's 65 years old. He still plays decent. But I mean, he was like 55 when I would come on the scene, and he was still great, but not as good as what he was.
Did you see his farewell tour? Some of the shots he was playing on his farewell tour
was brilliant.
Like, he misses balls now. He misses balls what he wouldn't miss 15, 20 years ago.
For me, I think
Efren's definitely the best player of all time. There's no doubt about it. But he asked me who's the best player you've played against.
Yeah,
I did. I was very specific.
No, that's fair enough. You've put us in our place there.
Yeah, so
Efren's definitely the greatest.
There's always that ongoing debate of.
For me, he's the greatest Q sport player of all time. His knowledge is just second to none. I know Ronnie's more talented, but Efren's just knowledge of the game is just incredible.
So there's always that ongoing debate of who's the best, greatest 8-ball player of Mick Hill and Gareth Potts, and you're still in the Mick Hill court?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Because I played both guys. I probably played Mick, 40 times? Played Gareth maybe 30 times, and I have a really good record against Gareth, where I don't against Mick. I watched them two play against each other a lot. And because Gareth come on the scene very early. He was like 13, 14 years old. So at the time, me and Mick would have been about 21. Well, I'll have been about 21 and Mick will have been about 18. So like for the next 10 years, me and Mick still dominated the game, really. We went back and forth like we was number 1 or number 2 in the rankings for them 10 years, let's say. And then you had people like Mellin, Jason Twist, Gareth Potts.
Yep.
And then once I stopped playing, for some reason, Mick sort of like slowed down a little bit as well. And then Jason Twist slowed down a little bit. And then Chris Melling come over to American Pool. And then, so I hadn't taken anything away from Gareth. But from then, that's where Gareth really started to dominate.
Jason Twist was a hell of a player. People don't talk about Jason Twist. He was a hell of a player.
Jason's the best pressure player I've ever seen at English 8-ball.
But Melling, I always felt he regretted failing as a snooker player.
Yeah, I think he's sort of, yeah, for sure. For sure. When Melling was 17, 18, his talent was incredible. Absolutely. Yeah. But he tried to do all the cue sports at the same time. And I told him, I said, look, if you're going to be a snooker player, you need to be 7 hours a day. But he just didn't do it. He couldn't do it. He just loves being involved in a cue sport. It doesn't matter if it's... So he'd have like a qualifier for the Welsh Open, for example, on the Monday, and he's playing on the UK tour at 8-ball until Sunday. I says, Chris, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Just stupid. But it's a shame because I do think when he was really younger, he was better than people like Tom Ford, in my opinion, at snooker.
So
Ford's what, number 25 in the world at snooker?
Yes, he's doing well.
So you know Tom Ford. You know Tom Ford.
Yeah, very well. And Chris was competing with Mark Selby and them guys.
So Mark Selby, Tom Ford come from the same kind of hotbed in Leicester. Leicester's another hotbed for cue sports.
Yeah, it's a shame with Chris. Chris is definitely the most underachieved pool player of all time, in my opinion.
Do you think he could have achieved more if he wasn't showboat so much to the crowd?
He asked. He's a showman. He's a shot maker. He loves the attention. He loves the limelight. The bigger the stage, the better he plays. But sometimes he takes that crazy shot too far.
But he's probably got the most viewed pool shot on YouTube.
Oh, unbelievable!
I mean, that's sick. That clearance.
He's more famous for that 8-ball run out than anything he's ever achieved in his career.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? That's
unbelievable.
Insane.
He's had like maybe 80 million views, you know.
It was pretty good, though.
It's insane.
And that was my tournament as well.
It was.
Darren.
I mean, what a player, though. What a talent. What a shot maker.
I love watching him.
But if he had more discipline and more dedication, he'll have achieved a hell of a lot in American pool.
But you think about this. Yourself, Melling, Potts, Mick Hill, you'd put my bum on a seat. If I had to pay for a ticket, you'd put my bum on a seat because I'd want to watch you play. Oh, and that's the big difference.
You had Melling, you had Mick Hill, you had Jason Twist, Phil Harrison. I mean, it was unbelievable, really.
It was. I mean, it was such... And I try and explain this to people when people say, you know, because we love the IPA. Well, I think the IPA is great. I love watching it. They're brilliant. They're all brilliant players.
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
But I try and explain kind of what it was like when I was younger and say, you know, it used to be on Sky. They'd show it from the quarterfinals onwards, and you would see some of the most unbelievable pool. And a lot of the guys were very, very, very entertaining, and you could kind of see their personalities come out. Whereas you've seen this in the advent of social media. Like, I've always known you've had a personality, and I've known you've had a personality since day dot, but since I watched you kick a pool table. Yeah. I was like, actually, this is quite funny. And actually, you're probably, when Jim White has interviewed you, when you've lost in 2006, it is literally like the only honest interview when somebody's lost ever. You just sound gutted. Oh, yeah. Like, literally, like, as in, I'm fuming. Don't want to talk to you, really. I know I've got to, but I don't want to talk to you. So I'm into that personality. I'm thinking, this is the way I'd react if I lost in a world final. I'll be fuming. You've got all these other personalities. Now, you've embraced social media. Now, talk us through your social media following and the stuff you do on there.
Well, basically, is that at the end of the day, social media is more powerful than television itself, I think, right now.
Yeah, agreed.
So you've got to use it to your advantage. You've got to use it for your sponsors, giving back to your sponsors, building your own brand up, making more exposure for the sport you live or the game you live, and keeping everyone updated, and people can get closer to you, and you can get closer to your fans or your followers. And it's a great tool for pool, especially these poor sports. You know what I mean? Like poor sports, like pool. It's a great opportunity for us to use it to take it to the next level and make it a bigger sport and more exposure. And it's really disappointing that the players don't see that. So what I see a lot is that I'll be running a tournament, or you might be running a tournament. I will always share your page if you ask me to, or if I know it's going on. I'll share everything in pool, all these streams, everything else. But a lot of players refuse to do that because they think they're putting money in your pocket, but they don't look at the big picture. You're actually putting money in their pocket long term. they need to look at the big picture long term, because the more everyone shares the same thing, the more exposure that tournament gets. The numbers go up, the sponsors give more money, the game gets more popular, and we all benefit. But pool players especially, they're very narrow-minded people. That they always think there's something in it for them and not themselves. And we all need to be thinking on the same page.
Yes, it's not been utilised enough, especially the IPA tour. There's no player profiles. There's none of that, and everyone should be made to do it.
And also, like, some of the guys, the way they speak on, especially the English 8-ball players, no disrespect, but the language they use on social media is not good also.
Because we want heroes we can look up to, and we want heroes that
when you get these young kids on Facebook and they're seeing their hero, like, swearing, like, compulsive swearing and slating and having banter, but it's the wrong type of banter, you know what I mean? There's a time and a place for banter. Like now, for example, is okay, we have a bit of fun, but when someone sees someone doing that, it gets a bit it's a bit off-putting, you know what I mean? Especially for sponsors. So when you're watching these chat rooms and people are like being brutal on there, so you have to be careful how you respond to people and what you say, because there's always somebody watching you. You know what I mean?
That's the thing I've struggled with.
And there's people on the outside who might be thinking, "Oh, I might be interested in getting involved in pool."
Yeah.
But when they watch the stream and they see the language, what's been brought out, I mean, it's just a big off-put, and people need to really see this. You know what I mean?
So we had Dan Davey on the show a couple of days ago, and he's a great guy. If you watched him play, you wouldn't know that he's actually got this phenomenal personality. Now, I do need to ask you one thing. So Dan spoke to us about a match you had with him. Okay. I'm going to take you down memory lane.
Milton
so
Keynes.
it's 8-all. It's 8-all. You're on the final black to beat him 9-8. You've had a kick. Talk us through the kick and what happened next.
Well, it was actually, I think it was a 16-man tournament, about £200 per player.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, I think he might have said it was 500, actually. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we both played pretty well in the match. I remember the match, actually. And I don't remember a lot of pool matches I played at English 8-ball, obviously, unless it's a World Championships. And you might be able to bring my memory back. But I remember this match because I was perfect on the 8-ball. I'm just off straight into the middle, just like a little half-ball cut. And it's kicked on me. And obviously, it's cost me the match. So I put my cue away in my case, but then the case went through this wall. For a hole in the wall, but it was like plaster wood or something. So
yeah,
and then about 2 weeks later, they sent me a bill for the repairs. So I just.
Do you know what Dan said about after the match?
He said you're a bad loser.
No, he didn't. What he actually said was, he said after he'd done that, he said, I thought I was like a bit ooh and a bit ah. He said, but afterwards, you calmed down after 5 minutes, and you were like the nicest guy on the planet.
Yeah.
Like literally, like it had gone and.
Oh, I was a terrible loser, but after 10 or 15 minutes, I was okay.
Yeah, and that's good to hear.
People, I used to tell my friends or my family, whatever, don't speak to me for the first 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can be a bit like that. I'm fine afterwards.
I'll just blank you, especially if it's a bad loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to just feel I just want to kill somebody or kill myself.
Are you still like that now?
No, not anymore. As you get older, you take the defeats a lot better, especially in American pool, because there's so much luck in the game.
Yeah.
You have to start accepting it a lot easier. So when I lose now, it depends how I lose or what have you, but maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But I don't get as angry with myself after I lose. It's a lot easier to accept, because at the end of the day, it's part of the game. But when you're younger, you think you're indestructible. You know what I mean? You think you should never lose, and when you play bad, you don't understand how you can play bad. Where when you get older,
Darren, though, is it? Because in boxing, you can walk out, you can have a points defeat, but you know you've won. It's irrelevant. You might not have got the decision, but you know
if I play well and lose, it's a lot easier to take.
Yeah,
but if I've made a bad mistake or made a certain mistake, what I know has cost me the match, then it eats away at you. Definitely. But that's a good thing, because it makes you stronger mentally next time. My motto was always don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah,
and I've been pretty good at doing that. But I'll probably make the same mistake another 2 or 3 years down the line after I've forgot about it. You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Darren, I'm really interested in your practice routine. So I'd like to know how much you practice, or you've only practiced before a tournament, how you practice. Obviously, we see on Facebook and other social media your practice routines, and they're phenomenal and they're great. And you do some routines that pretty much probably only you could do. How do you approach you got the World 9-ball championships in a couple of months. How do you approach that?
Yeah, obviously now I'm taking the game very serious again. And I've realised at 44 years old, I have to put more quality into my practice than quantity. When I was in my 20s playing English 8-ball, I could play 6-7 hours a day, no problem. I just keep racking the balls. And I had no real structure to my practice at that game, but I was so young. You just don't care, do you? Everything comes easy. But as you get older, obviously, when I first started playing American pool, I was an hardcore practice player, but I didn't do a lot of drills and stuff like that. I just played the game, you know what I mean? Or I played money matches. That was my practice. I always had someone to practice with. And obviously, I lived in America for 7 years, so there was always someone to play with. But when I got my own table at home, I started doing more drills and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, this is actually good. It's good. It's really good for your concentration, your focus. Because it got to the stage where I can't practice 4, 5, 6 hours a day anymore. So now I put maybe 3 hours a day in, but it's really good quality practice. I have a structure. So I'll just start off like just loosen up, play like maybe 20 or 30 straighting shots, like mid-range or long-range, just to make sure that I'm in stroke. And then after that, I'll like practice my break for like 15, 20 minutes. And then I'll probably just play around playing some kick shots for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I'll do some drills, some really tough drills. Sometimes it might take me an hour, 2 hours to complete a drill. And then after the drill, I'll probably play like against the Ghost. But I imagine I'm playing a top player. So if I play the 10-ball Ghost, I make the rules very tough for myself. So I have to break and run out. I don't get ball in hand. And if I scratch on the break, I lose the rack. So, but I imagine I'm playing someone like Shane Van Bonen in the final of a major championship, like a race to 9.
You always win. Yeah, you always win.
He's probably done better against me as a Ghost than he has in person. So yeah, because the Ghost is very consistent.
That's how they don't miss. They don't miss.
So, but it's great practice. It puts pressure on you in practice, and then sometimes I just play straight pull. I might play straight pull. So if I'm on a run of like 80, 90 balls and you make a mistake, it's very hard to restart again playing straight pull. So it gets your concentration really zoned in. So it's a great practice drill is straight pull.
So you've come off a plane, but done this huge worldwide kind of tour for all these years and kind of, you've come back home.
Yeah, I've been to 78 countries.
What are you thinking? 78. You've been to 78 countries. You get off the plane. What are you thinking?
Really.
It's raining.
I've actually I've won tournaments in 26 different countries, which is incredible. Really, I never realised that. You know, I just done a lot of reflecting the last 2 or 3 years. So I started writing a lot of stuff down. The countries I've been, the countries I've won tournaments in, and it's just like I said. Like I sort of pinch myself. Really, it's just incredible. But the travelling is very hard. The travelling becomes very, very hard. So I do pick and choose my tournaments a lot more now. Where the first 4 or 5 years of playing American pool, I was on the plane I was taking like 50 to 70 flights per year. So now I've cut that down to about 20 to 25 flights a year.
It still takes it out of you every flight, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like you go to China, I mean, you're talking a grueling flight and your expenses are what, $2,000-$3,000 before you hit a ball. And if you get beat, you're on your way back home the next day. It's a place what I don't really care for anyway. So when I do get beat, in China, for example, I'm on the next flight home. So it is tough, like places like China. Where if I'm in America, I'm happy to stick around because I can do games. I can do coaching. I do a lot of clinics in America.
And it's a nice vibe over there.
So it's just great. Like it's my second home as well. It's a great country, and the people are very friendly, even though they're a bit naive. They're easily persuaded, let's say, and easily pleased. But they are very, very friendly, nice people. Even in Europe, places in Europe are great, like Italy, France, Spain, and people are good. You know what I mean? So they're countries where you're happy to be stuck in if you get beat.
Yeah.
But there's some countries where you just want to get out of there. You know?
Yeah. No,
you must be classed as a famous person now. You must be able to, you can't.
I'm probably more famous in the Philippines than I am, let's say, the UK or anywhere else. Because in the Philippines, it's one of their national sports. So when I was doing really well, like when there was a lot of tournaments in the Philippines, I get in a taxi and they know who I was really. Or at the airport, people would recognise me. No, obviously not like a big celebrity, but you know what I mean? I get recognised more there than I would in the UK for sure. Then in America, obviously, it's not really televised much in America, so it's just a bit hit and miss there whether you get recognised. And then the only real famous people, what I'd say in America, is Alison Fisher, the Black Widow, Jeanette Lee. and probably like the old school players like Strickland and Johnny Archer, because back then it was on the ESPN all the time.
That's right, yeah.
So in the UK, sometimes in the UK I'll get recognised like at the airports and that, but nothing crazy, you know what I mean? Good, really. I prefer that. I've never really enjoyed the limelight. I just take it for what it is, you know what I mean? I don't go looking for it.
So you've come back to England and you've started playing limited English 8-ball pool again. What were your thoughts when you saw the standard?
I was more surprised with the equipment, really. I was surprised how thin the cloth was and how much better the balls were. But the game, I don't like the rules. I've got to be honest with you. I don't like world rules either, let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's too much going on with the rules.
So it's the black ball rules you don't like, yeah.
And the black ball rules are too easy for professionals, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's just like whack the balls open and you have to go game, really. There's no real safety. So I think the game's a bit easier. But the standard regards potting the balls and everything else probably better than what it used to be. They're all just crazy potters. They all go game every shot. So I'd probably say the knowledge of the players were more knowledgeable, let's say 10, 15 years ago than what they are now. But I think the guys are probably more attacking now. But I think the equipment allows that also. So it's hard to really judge the two. But I still look at Mick Hill and Phil Harrison and Gareth Potts and Jason Twist as better players than, let's say, the guys who are at the top of the game now. But I do rate Tom Cousins. I must say that I'm a big fan of Tom Cousins.
Mark Boyle's a terrific player as well.
There is very good players like Mark Farnsworth, Mark Boyle, Jordan Church.
Church, unbelievable.
Neil Rayburn. I'm really good friends with him. I've known him a long time. I mean, they're all really, really class players, but they're not quite at Mick Hill, Gareth Potts, Chris Melling, Jason Twist level, in my opinion.
Could you be tempted to play on the IPA tour?
If I stop playing American pool, then maybe. But I still think I've still got a lot to offer at American pool, so I have to give it 100%. We go back to the Chris Melling situation. I think you can't do both. I mean, I can play one tournament a year like the World Championships and give it a go for 2 weeks beforehand, practice, and then go to the tournament and just try your hand. You might get lucky and win it. And that's probably my plan, really, is to play in the World Championships only. And if I get lucky, I might catch a gear and get a bit of luck and win it. And then obviously I can get rid of that disappointment of not winning it before. But
that irks you, doesn't it? That you haven't won the English 8-ball?
A little bit, yeah, because I've achieved that much in the game.
Yeah.
And I achieved everything at English 8-ball. I mean, out the 10 years I was on the Pro Tour, I was world number one. I was ranked number one 5 out of them 10 years.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I won 4 European Championships, which was just as tough to win the World Championships.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy to win 4 European Championships. And then I won TV events like the International Masters Europeans. I won the tour event. I think after Mick Hill, I've probably won the most majors, but I never won the World Championship. So it's disappointing, really.
You got to have it, yeah. You got to have it. I
think besides Mick and Gareth, I think I have won more majors than Gareth. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Mick Hill's definitely won more majors than me. But it is disappointing that I didn't win it. But if I ended my career tomorrow, I'm not going to kill myself about not winning the English 8-ball. Where if I was still playing English 8-ball and I hadn't won it, then I'd have to say that I probably am a bottle job, like you, like some guys say. But
well, yeah, they do. I can't get my head around it.
But I can't
get my head around it. Go and look at some of your YouTube videos, and they'll go bottled it when it counts. And I'm thinking, I'm reading, I'm thinking, these idiots have never picked a cue up. Surely.
Well, I haven't done bad though. I have to say,
that's not bad for a bottle
job. Yeah,
I haven't done bad for a bottle job, really. Well, any sport. I mean, I've seen Mick Hill dog it. I've seen Gareth dog it. I've seen
seen everyone do it.
I've seen Ronnie O'Sullivan dog it.
Hendry, Steve Davis.
Any sportsman, they have Roger Federer, Tiger Woods.
Ronaldo.
It happens. You know what I mean? It happens. That's life. We're all human. We all make mistakes. And when your confidence is low.
So what's next for you? Where are you going from here?
My real big goal now is to get back in the Moscone Cup. But
yeah, we'd love to see you in it as well. Yeah.
So I'm really working hard. I think my game's really back to where it was 5-6 years ago. But the big disappointing thing now is that I'm playing for nothing. But the good thing is that I'm getting myself time to get my game where I want it to be. And I think it's very close now. I might be like 90. I was 6 months ago, I was like 60% there, where now I know I'm about 95%. I just need to test it now on the world stage and see where I am. And let's see if I can deal with the pressure again. The problem now, right, is that there's a lot of tournaments being postponed. And in American pool, it's a very international game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of travel restrictions. So they've basically cancelled all the international tournaments till or October at the earliest. For me to get in the Moscone Cup this year now is virtually impossible. It is impossible because I don't have a ranking, you see. So, and I'm not going to have any tournaments to try and get in the team. So they're going to handpick the team, judging on what happened last year, really. So they're going to pick Jason Shaw, Joshua Filler, all them guys. So it's going to work me this year, but the goal is to get back in the team next year, obviously.
I think you'll be back in. I think it's crazy. If I were to be a Moscone Cup captain and I wanted to pick somebody on bottle and what they've done, like the Ryder Cup, you'd be my wild card pick because I'd be thinking, I know what the guy can do.
Yeah, I agree with you.
No. I'm just saying. I've sat. I'm a fan. I've watched it.
I think deep down that the captains know that I bring a lot to the table as in that team environment. Yeah. But it's going to be very hard for them to justify picking me. They'd be like, because I haven't really been on the scene, you see. So there'd be a lot of crying pool players and crying.
What about Ian Poulter for the Ryder Cup? They always pick Ian Poulter.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do they pick Ian Poulter? It's not because of his stupid dress sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's a winner and he does well at the Ryder Cup.
He's great at the Ryder Cup, and
it's unbelievable.
If it's not broken, then you go. If I'm captain, I'd make decisions on what I know is going to be the best for the team, not to make other people happy. And I think with the captains now, that's what's happening.
Yeah. So what have you got?
The last 2 or 3 years.
I've seen it, and the results have reflected it.
They're sort of scared to make a decision by themselves.
Yeah, the results have reflected it though. They've been beaten.
They get influenced a lot by other people also. You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's a tough industry. It's a tough job. I understand why they do it, but I'm one of them. I'm one of those people that if I was captain, I'd want to do it on my terms. You know what I mean? I'd want to pick my team, but I wouldn't pick my team because I'm friends with somebody. I pick him to make sure it's the best team possible. And it isn't. And when you watch the last 2 or 3 years, it's been very disappointing to watch.
Correct. Also, where do you play these days? Because there's only sort of one pro tour in England. Are you heading out on the Euro Tour?
I have no choice, really, but to play the Euro Tour to get my ranking back up there and everything else. Plus, it's a Moscone Cup ranking event. So I'm playing all over Europe, play the tournaments in America. Obviously, China, when it reopens, we have like 1 or 2 events there. The Middle East, we have 1 or 2 events there. But the good thing, Matchroom's got the US Open. They've got the World 9-Ball Championships, but obviously we just don't know what's going to happen with them now. And then there's some good tournaments in America. So it's mainly America and Europe, and obviously the odd tournament in the Middle East and China. But it's great because I love America, so it's an easy flight to America for me. Where if I'm going to China, it's like something I don't really look forward to. So it's just grind away, innit? You're just going to wait and see what happens with this lockdown and what happens. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of restrictions in place. So, to be honest, the season might even be over for an American pool.
Once this lockdown is over, the standard of pools should be a lot better because everyone's at home practicing at the moment.
Well, obviously, there's some players who can't practice at home because they don't have a table. But the guys there's some guys like myself and Torsten Oman, who's playing all the time. It'd probably benefit people like me and him, and Jason Shaw, but he's a top player anyway. So, it's one of those, isn't it? Obviously, there's going to be a bit of... We're all biting at the bit to play, I guess, but then you've got to get over the rustiness of the match practice, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back, but it's hard to really focus about where we're going right now. Just take each day as it comes and see what the future holds in it. I mean, it's crazy, really, what's going on.
So I've got one final question. If you were to kind of go back in a time machine and speak to your 16-year-old self who just starting out kind of know that they're getting decent and said, I'm going to visit nearly 100 countries. I'm going to be a 3-time world champion. I'm going to be multiple Moscone Cup. What do you think your 16-year-old self would say to yourself?
I was very happy. I think I would have snapped your arm off, really. I'll have thought, if someone said to me at 16 years old, I've achieved what I've achieved and gone the direction where I have gone, I'd probably, I'd love to do it all again, really.
Yeah,
you know
I think you've had a kind of...
And I wouldn't change anything, really. The only, like I said before, the only slight disappointment is not winning the English 8-Ball World Championship. Besides that, I mean, I'm probably one of the luckiest people on the planet, really, as a pool player.
Yeah.
So even though I might not be the best player ever or whatever, I don't even come close to classing myself like that, but I know for success, then I'm right up there. And I've had a bit of luck at the right time, and I've done the right things. But I've worked hard, and there's no secret. People ask me, like, how do you become a top player? I said, you just got to work hard. But not only just work hard on the table, you got to work hard mentally. So I like study other sports. I study like these great managers and get the psychology of the game and visualize and meditate and all that stuff. You have to visualize yourself being there, you know what I mean? And if you do that, then that is a good starting block. And then it's just hard work, practice, and do the right things and believe in yourself and work hard. Because at 16, I'm thinking, well, you just don't think it's just a hobby, isn't it? It starts as a hobby and then it just happens. It's just crazy, really.
It's crazy though. Your talent's taken you across the world, won you a lot of money, given you experiences that we could only us mere mortals could only dream of. I mean, for me, that's kind of the everlasting. And and essentially, you're immortal. You're in a Hall of Fame. People in hundreds of years will look at the Pool Hall of Fame and they'll see your name in there.
Yeah, do you remember Darren Appleton?
Darren Appleton?
They'll be looking you up on YouTube.
I've always said, like, if one person says you're the best player ever, you're very happy just to one person say it.
Be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, just to be in the conversation. It's like people ask me all the time, who's the best English 8-ball player? Mick Hill, Gareth Potts, Jason Twist, whatever. I says, look, as long as I'm in the conversation, I'm very happy. And the same with the American pool. Because at the end of the day, I know I didn't win a world championship, but I still achieved a lot in the game. You know what I mean? And it's just one tournament. And the 8-foot table didn't help me either. It sort of went against me.
Yeah, that's crazy. It went from 7 to 8 foot.
The 8-foot table benefited people like Jason Twist, Chris Mellin and Gareth Potts because their game was all about potting. Where someone like me, myself and Mick Hill and a Keith Brewer, for example, it probably hinders us a little bit.
To be fair, and I'm going to say this, he might be a friend of yours, but Keith Brewer turned me off watching the game of pool.
Probably the best tactician of all time.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, Darren Appleton, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too, guys. It's been great.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's not often that somebody you look up to and admire lives up to that expectation that you really have.
Awesome.
It's been great to hear you be so candid.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys continue the good work. And I hope you get some other guests. Maybe get Jason Shaw on here and people like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much and good luck.
Right, cheers, guys. I'll catch you later.
It's a beautiful game. Grab your cue and your case. Don't sink the white ball, it will all go to pot. Here's that black ball on the spot. Do 2 shots carry this time? In the D-ref or behind the line? Is that a free ball? Take your time, you're nearly over the line. You're the yellows and I'm the reds. This ain't snooker, it's more like chess. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting balls for fun. 7 ball in this frame. Rack the balls, ref, it's my break. Sit down, son, you ain't having a shot. Oh, balls, I've just missed an easy pot. You're the yellows and I'm the reds. This ain't snooker, it's more like chess. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting balls for fun. You're the yellows and I'm the reds. This ain't snooker, it's more like chess. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting balls for fun. Chalk your Q-tip, you're on a run. We're potting balls for fun.